Welcome to another video in the Aduro video series. In this video, I will be interviewing Lucie Wenmakers from Brightlands. Aduro and Brightlands are working together. Brightlands requested Aduro to have a pilot in the Brightlands campus, and there was a press release about it. So I sat down with Lucie to do an interview with her to learn her thoughts about, first of all, Brightlands, what she thinks about Aduro, and how she became aware of Aduro in the first place. So with that being said, let's jump into the interview. I was wondering if you could maybe take a few minutes to introduce yourself and also Brightland, what it is that you do.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, my name is Lucie Wenmakers, and I'm one of the business developers for the Brightlands Chemelot campus. Brightlands Chemelot campus is part of one of the largest chemical sites in Europe, called Chemelot. And the campus part is the innovation hub associated with it. So in that way, it's quite different from what people in North America perceive a campus to be. It's not a university campus, it's an industry innovation campus. And my role as a business developer is twofold. On the one hand, I look after the ecosystem that we have here, make sure that everybody knows what everybody is doing, make introductions, but also make sure that we strengthen the ecosystem by attracting companies and organizations with a good fit with our key focus areas to join us at Brightlands. And the combination of those two is what makes this a very strong ecosystem.
But what kind of companies are in your campus? Are they specific industries?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Brightlands Chemelot campus is focused on polymer materials, sustainable chemical processes, and biomedical applications. And of course, the companies within our campus are in those focus areas. So on the one hand, you have material companies that develop plastic materials, and they can be corporates or startups and everything in between. But apart from the material companies, there are also scientific institutes, we have education providers, and a lot of support organizations that support the other companies in their innovation efforts.
You mentioned something about network of these companies and how you work together with them and how you kind of help each company's network with other companies. Could you touch on this a little bit?
Of course. We have a communication team, and that is very active in organizing all kinds of events that are of interest to our community. So they can be scientific events like masterclasses by Nobel Prize winners, for instance, but it could also be a sports program where people meet, or seminars. So that's the general community engagement that we do. But the business developers do more of a one-on-one introduction. So if I talk to one company and I see synergies with what other companies are doing, I high-level discuss this with them and provide an introduction if they want to meet and discuss this further. So it's a very personal approach that we have, as well as the community approach.
So it seems to me like Aduro fits very well within your ecosystem. I was wondering, how did it come about that you were introduced to Aduro? How did you even find that Aduro existed?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. It was August 2020, so almost 2 years ago. And the world was basically holding its breath due to the COVID crisis and waiting and seeing what was going to happen. So in the summer, I had some time to go hunting for new technologies that I wasn't aware of. So I used a LinkedIn search on certain keywords, and there Aduro popped up, which was quite incredible because they didn't even have a working website at the time. So it was serendipity, I think. And I reached out to them via LinkedIn, and we set up a Teams meeting for a brief introduction to get to know each other. And I thought the technology that Aduro was developing for heavy crude oil might actually be very suitable for recycling of waste plastic materials. They weren't focusing on that at all at the time, but after our discussion, they felt that was an area that they needed to explore further.
And were you surprised by, because from what I understand, you're very aware of many different technologies in this space. Were you surprised by what Aduro was doing?
I was certainly very interested after our first discussion. 2 years ago, a lot of focus was on pyrolysis for waste plastic recycling, certainly here in Europe. I think it was more based on waste plastic recycling to energy in North America at the time, but here in Europe it was as a circular feedstock. And this technology that Aduro was developing, to me at the time, 2 years ago, was very new. I think in the last 2 years, there are a few others that are looking at new technologies that are broadly similar, of course, never exactly the same as what Aduro is doing. But at the time, I wasn't aware of it. So I was certainly very interested to find out more.
So if you compare it to some of the other technologies that you were aware of at that time, what made Aduro unique that caught your interest?
Yeah. I saw the potential of recycling a lot less clean waste plastic streams. So if we look at mechanical recycling, the waste plastic needs to be very well sorted, well washed to get a reasonable quality of product at the end. And due to Aduro's process, some of the contaminations that everybody is struggling with are actually a benefit in their process. So that really, indicated for me that it was certainly worthwhile exploring further whether this could work for recycling of plastics.
From my reading about the industry, I understand that out of all the feedstock, plastic feedstock, uh, maybe 10 to 20% of the feedstock is what everybody else is focusing on, and so, like, how could Aduro be competitive in that industry?
They can be competitive because they can work with plastic waste materials that the others can't. So in Europe at the moment, even the European Union is indicating that if a material is high quality enough, waste material, to be mechanically recycled, then it should be mechanically recycled. So what Aduro in Europe is focusing on now is waste plastic feedstocks that are not in that group. And there is plenty of that available. It's the high-grade waste plastic that is very difficult and very expensive to buy. So I think their solution could help with this huge mountain of waste that we don't have a good solution for at the moment.
And I saw that there was a joint press release between Aduro and Brightlands, and the way I understand it is there will be or there is a pilot being built that would be housed at Brightlands. I was wondering if you could comment on this, on how this is going, and when do you think it would be delivered?
Yeah. Yeah, this is absolutely what we are aiming towards. It's not there yet. We agree to work towards a pilot or demonstration unit here at Brightlands for waste plastic recycling. And what we have done since then is brought Aduro in contact with a lot of different organizations within our network that could help with this activity. So if you do something in the lab and you have to scale it up, that is even harder than just doing the invention in the first place. And you need engineering partners, you need process engineers, you need people that help you with funding, with permitting, all those different support organizations. You need to line up, as it were, to make it happen in the end. And that's what we have been doing in the last 6 months. And in the next 2 months, the first activities will take place here with one of our partners, Chemelot, here at the Brightlands Chemelot campus. But that is preliminary work so that we can start designing this pilot unit that will be based here on campus. But it will probably be in the course of 2023 before it's actually going to be here.
And what's the point of a pilot like this? Are certain companies within the industry, like plastic companies, would be invited to test it? Like, what's the point of it?
This is one stage to a full-scale industrial installation. So if you test something in the lab, you have to go through several different steps where the process gets scaled up bigger because the technology is very simple. You can do stuff by hand, but a full-scale industrial size plant needs to be a continuous process that is very well controlled, and that doesn't happen in one step from the lab to a full scale. So what we're doing here is one of those in-between steps before you design the industrial scale plant.
And does Brightland get requests for pilots from different companies?
Absolutely. So the Brightlands campus, we actually are real estate agents. We rent out spaces, lab spaces or pilot plant halls or pilot plots that companies can rent from us to do their scale-up activities. And they can either do that in their own space or they can work with one of our partners that has a space that they can share. So this combination works quite well.
And does Brightline have any selective process as to who can become part of your ecosystem?
Absolutely. We've got a list of, we call it customer acceptance checklist, and it has a lot of criteria that we look at before we agree for a new company or a new activity to be based on our campus. And that's why it's so strong, because we don't just accept anybody, only when there is a very good fit with what we would like to do.
Well, I am personally very excited about Brightlands and Aduro working together. I mean, the problem that Aduro is helping to solve in the world is a real problem, and hopefully, as society, we can move towards the solution. Are there any final thoughts that you would like to leave my listeners with, where it comes to Brightland or your relationship with Aduro or the technology?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need more of the good thinkers like Aduro has been doing. We have ideas about how we would like the world to look like in 2050, but we all need to work together and lots of hard work together to make that happen. So I think we need a lot more Aduros and a lot more people willing to sacrifice their lives basically to do a startup and help it grow.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time and your willingness to share this information.
Yeah, not a problem. It was my pleasure.